You've probably heard the name William B. Travis, right? It's practically synonymous with the Alamo. But the man behind the legend, well, he is way more complicated and, honestly, a lot more interesting than you might think. His story is really one of a flawed life and a heroic death.
I shall never surrender or retreat. I mean, wow. Those are the words that basically forged the entire legend. Written from inside a fortress, completely surrounded, facing impossible odds, it's the ultimate defiant cry of a man staring death right in the face. A total declaration of victory or death.
But who was this guy really? Before he became this huge symbol, before he was the commander of the Alamo, who was William Barrett Travis? That's the question we're really going to unpack here.
And this right here, this just illustrates the challenge perfectly. On the left, you've got the only supposed drawing of him made when he was alive, and even that is up for debate. Then on the right, you have that heroic portrait we all recognize. It was painted after he died, using a model. So our whole image of the guy is basically a construction.
So, to really understand the legend, we have to start right where it was born, inside the walls of the Alamo, with that famous letter declaring victory or death.
But that defiant commander is only half the picture. To really get how he ended up at the Alamo, we have to hit rewind. Because, believe it or not, years before he was a hero, William B. Travis was a man on the run.
You know, his life didn't start out all rebellious or anything. He was the oldest of 11 kids, had a pretty normal childhood back in South Carolina. He was even friends with James Butler Bonham, another guy who would end up at the Alamo. He grew up to be a lawyer, a teacher, a totally respectable guy in Alabama.
And then it all just completely fell apart. When he was just 20, he marries one of his students, Rosanna Cotto. Things go south, she's unfaithful, and Travis, he is believed to have killed her lover. And what does he do next? He just leaves, abandons his wife, his son, his whole life, and bolts for Texas to start over.
Now, what makes this even crazier is the timing. Travis shows up in Texas in 1831, right after Mexico passed this law, the Law of April 6, 1830. And that law basically slammed the door shut on all immigration from the U.S. So, from the second he crossed the border, Travis wasn't just running from his personal life, he was also an illegal immigrant.
So in Texas, this guy who's running from his own past, well, he pretty quickly turns into someone who's ready to challenge the law of his new home. He becomes a real Texas firebrand. He immediately fell in with what they called the War Party. These were the folks who were saying, nope, we need to fight for total independence for Mexico. On the other side, you had the Peace Party, who were trying to work things out diplomatically. And Travis, well, true to form, he picked the most radical option.
And man, he did not waste any time making a name for himself. By 1832, he's at Anahuac, tricking a Mexican colonel and getting himself arrested, which kicks off this whole local protest. After they free him, he pledges loyalty, but not to the dictator Santa Anna. No, he pledges it to Mexico's old constitution. But the real tipping point for a lot of people was in 1834. That's when Santa Anna throws the peace-loving diplomat Stephen F. Austin in jail. And that one move, it basically pushed all the moderates, including Austin himself, right over into Travis's camp.
So all this agitating, all this rebellion, it's all building to one single point. It all comes to a head in one place, with Travis becoming the commander of the Alamo.
And what's so wild is that they weren't even supposed to be there. I mean, the top guy, the commander of the entire Texian army, Sam Houston, had ordered them to destroy the Alamo and take the cannons. He wanted them to fall back. But Travis and the famous knife fighter James Bowie, they just flat out disobeyed a direct order. They decided to stay.
But it wasn't exactly a smooth chain of command. See, Travis was the official leader of the regular soldiers, but Bowie was in charge of all the volunteer militia guys. After a pretty heated argument, the men inside the fort did something totally wild. They held a vote, and they decided the two of them would have to share command. So Travis is sending out these frantic letters, just begging for help, for reinforcements. And in the end, only 35 men answered his call. That brought the grand total of defenders inside the walls to just 183. And who were they up against? Santa Anna's army. We're talking an estimated 3,000 soldiers, maybe even more. The odds? I mean, they weren't just bad. They were completely impossible. You know, at one point, Bowie actually started talking to the Mexicans, trying to work out some surrender terms. Travis put a stop to that, and he did it in a big way. He ordered a cannon fired right at the Mexican forces.
That's a pretty clear signal, right? No more talking. No surrender.
And with that single cannon shot, any chance of a peaceful end was just gone. Travis sealed his own fate, and in that moment, he started to forge his own legend.
The end came, and it was brutal. After a 13-day siege, the final attack started. Travis was one of the very first to die, shot in the head. His slave, Joe, actually saw it happen. And Santa Anna, true to the red flag he was flying, took 0 prisoners. The bodies of all 183 defenders were stacked up and burned.
And this really gets us to the heart of the whole story, the big paradox of his life. The source material we're looking at sums it up perfectly. In his life, Travis was, well, he was a complicated, flawed guy, a fugitive, an agitator, an illegal immigrant. But, and this is the quote, because of how he died, Travis went from a small-time freedom fighter to a genuine hero of Texas and American history.
So that leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. At the end of the day, what really makes a hero? Is it the complicated, messy, sometimes contradictory life they actually lived? Or is it that one, final, defiant moment of the death they chose?